If you have ever held something small that once belonged to someone long gone, an old key, a faded postcard, a smooth stone from a childhood pocket, you already know how time can feel gentle in the hand. Tonight, we begin with something even smaller than a key and older than any postcard. A tablet of clay, no larger than a book, pressed with tiny, wedge-shaped marks that look at first glance like little footprints. And I want to ask you a question so soft it doesn't need an answer. What if those marks were not only stories, but careful memories? Not memories the way we keep them in our hearts, warm, drifting, imperfect, but memories kept in earth itself. Sun-warmed clay, river-fed silt, a surface that welcomed pressure, accepted a stylus, and then once dried, once baked, held its shape with quiet devotion for thousands of years. As you listen, allow your shoulders to loosen a little. Let your jaw soften. If it helps, imagine you are in a museum after closing time when the last footsteps have faded and the glass cases reflect only dim lights and your own calm breathing. In that kind of stillness, even an object can feel like it's breathing with you. In and out. Let the bed hold you and let the day loosen its knots, one by one. Slowly, very slowly. Tonight is not a night for proving anything. Not a night for debating what is true and what is myth. It's simply a night for walking, unhurried, through a corridor of old words and letting them become a lantern, not an alarm. And if there is a gentle twist waiting for us, it will arrive like dawn, without noise. Before we drift deeper into tonight's gentle journey, remember to subscribe to Ancient Sleep Story. Here, you'll always find peaceful stories that soothe the heart and quiet the mind. Where are you listening from tonight? Leave a comment. Your presence adds warmth to this quiet corner of the night. Now, let's step into the story the way you might step into a library, quietly, with respect, and with the comfort of knowing you can stop and rest at any moment. In the year 1849, in the broad, pale landscapes of northern Mesopotamia, a young archaeologist named Austin Henry Layard stood among ruins that looked, from a distance, like low waves of earth. Layard and his team moved slowly because the ground under their feet was not just ground, it was layered time. Each shovel of soil could be a century, each brushstroke over a buried wall could be a doorway. Imagine the quiet rhythm of their work. A shovel sinks into packed earth. The scrape is gentle. A pause, a hand reaches down, not grabbing, but feeling for edges. A pottery shard, a brick that still carries the imprint of a thumb. Then something flatter, heavier, oddly smooth. Clay baked hard as stone. A tablet. In Layard's world, the discovery of a tablet was not like finding treasure in the dramatic sense. It was more like finding a letter someone carefully folded and placed in a drawer, hoping it would be read someday. The excitement was there, yes, but it was an inward excitement, the kind that asks for patience. A tablet could not be shouted over, it had to be listened to. The place they were uncovering was Nineveh, once one of the great cities of the ancient world. And within Nineveh, Layard would soon reveal rooms that belonged to the royal library of Ashurbanipal, shelves and storage spaces that had collapsed long ago, turning into quiet piles of broken clay. Over time, dust settled, walls fell, fires came and went, and still the tablets remained, sleeping under rubble like seeds waiting for water. When you picture a library, you might picture paper. You might picture leather bindings, lamps, wooden desks. But this library was something else. It was a library of earth, thousands upon thousands of tablets, each one a small rectangle of clay, each one pressed with lines of cuneiform, wedge-shaped writing that looks like geometry, made intimate. The work of reading them would take decades. It would take scholars who learn to recognize signs the way you recognize a loved one's handwriting. It would take long nights of comparing fragments, fitting broken corners together, listening to patterns until language reappeared. And in those patterns, names surfaced, stories surfaced, lists, prayers, letters, contracts, poems, so many layers of a civilization's ordinary life. Grain shipments, temple offerings, medical recipes, star charts, love songs that still feel tender. And also, the names of beings who were, to the people of Mesopotamia, part of reality in the same way rivers were, part of the world's order, part of its imagination, part of its hope. They called them the Anunnaki. Now, in many modern tellings, that word can arrive with sharp edges, but tonight we won't give it sharpness. Tonight we will treat the word as the scribes treated it, carefully, like a label on a shelf. Not a shout, not a warning siren, a label. Anunnaki, a family of names, a woven genealogy, a way of organizing the sky and the earth, the seen and the unseen, the predictable and the mysterious. If you feel your mind trying to wake itself up, trying to argue, to fact-check, to take a side, let it rest for a moment. You don't have to decide what the Anunnaki were. You only have to notice the tenderness of what the scribes did. They pressed marks into clay so that something would not be lost. That act alone is deeply human. A scribe sits near lamplight, the kind that doesn't blaze but glows. The room smells faintly of oil and warm mud brick. Outside, the night air moves through reeds along the riverbanks. Inside, the scribe holds a stylus, a sharpened reed, and presses it into wet clay, one wedge at a time. Tap, pause, tap. The rhythm is steady, like rain on a roof. Like a slow heartbeat. Each mark is small, but together they become a path. And perhaps you can feel even now why this kind of writing is perfect for a sleep story. It is made of repetition. It is made of patience. It is made of the belief that a quiet thing can endure. In Mesopotamia, between the rivers Tigris and Euphrates, people lived by cycles. Water rose and fell. Fields were planted and harvested. Dusk cooled the heat of day. Stars came out on schedule, as if the sky itself kept a calm promise. The scribes watched those cycles and wrote them down, not to control the world, but to make it feel understandable, to give it shape, to place it into categories that could be held gently in the mind. So when they wrote of Anu, they wrote of the sky's vastness. When they wrote of Enlil, they wrote of air and authority. When they wrote of Enki, they wrote of water and wisdom. You don't have to believe in these beings to feel what the names do to the nervous system. They make the world feel ordered. They give a restless mind something to rest against. And maybe, in the quietest sense, that is why these stories last. Not because they are meant to frighten us, but because they are meant to calm us with structure. Now let's return to Nineveh for a moment, to the long rooms where tablets lay like fallen leaves. Layard's team would have carried tablets out into the light carefully, wrapping them, padding them, knowing that a corner could crumble with the wrong touch. Many were already broken, shattered by collapse and time. Yet even broken, they held meaning. A fragment could contain a name, a date, a prayer, a measurement. A fragment could be a bridge. Centuries later, in museums and archives, curators would place these fragments in drawers lined with soft material. Each drawer a little bedroom for the past, each label a promise of order, each catalogue number a way of saying, "We see you, we will not let you vanish again." If you've ever felt overwhelmed by the noise of modern life, the endless messages, the rushing feeds, the constant sense that you must respond, then the idea of a library that waits in silence for 2,500 years may feel like a kind of medicine. A long pause, preserved. A breath held patiently. And in that pause, the question that brings us deeper tonight begins to form, not as fear, but as wonder. What were these tablets trying to do? Were they prayers? Were they poems? Were they records? Were they all of these at once? Sometimes, the most comforting answer is the simplest. They were messages. Human messages pressed into clay, sent forward through time the way you might send a letter to a future version of yourself, hoping that one day, in a calmer season, someone will read it and feel less alone. And if that is true, then the tablets are not demanding belief. They are offering companionship. They are saying, we were here. We watched the stars too. We worried too. We tried to make sense of our days. We built cities out of mud and hope. We named the forces we felt around us, and we wrote those names down so you would know our world had texture. Now, as you settle deeper into your bed or your chair, or wherever you are listening, imagine the clay again. Imagine it still warm from the sun, still slightly damp, still open to touch. A scribe presses a wedge, another wedge. A line forms. And somewhere among those lines, there is a small note that feels almost like it was written for you. Go slowly. Remember gently. Let the past be a soft lantern. In the next part of our journey, we will drift further back, past Nineveh, past the museum drawers, past the translators' desks, toward the southern marshlands where the first cities rose from water and reeds, and where an ancient place called Eridu waited at the edge of the sea. And as we go, we will carry one calm question like a pocket stone. Have you ever felt that fairy tales bring you more peace than modern stories? We leave the quiet drawers of Nineveh now, and we travel south, not quickly, but the way a river travels, steady, patient, making room for every bend. If you like, imagine the map of Mesopotamia as a long breath drawn between two shining lines, the Tigris on one side, the Euphrates on the other. Between them, a wide plain where silt settles like a soft blanket, where reeds sway, and where the horizon often looks as if it is made of pale gold and gentle dust. It is early morning in our imagination, the kind of morning that feels cool on the skin. A thin mist floats above the water. Birds call once, then fall quiet again, as if they too are still half asleep. Somewhere, a small boat nudges through the reeds, its wake leaving a slow, widening V that closes behind it as quietly as a curtain. This is the world that held some of the earliest cities, places that did not begin as stone and marble, but as mud brick and careful hands. And one of the oldest names in that watery south is Eridu. Eridu is not a loud place in the mind. It is a place of beginnings that happen softly, like dawn light creeping across a floor. In the stories preserved on clay, Eridu often appears near the start, as if the ancient imagination wanted to anchor civilization to water, to the hush of marshlands, to the steady rhythm of reeds. When you picture Eridu, don't picture a skyline, picture low walls, courtyards, a canal that brings water close, clay jars cooling in shade, a fire that burns not fiercely but faithfully, and above it all, a sky that changes color slowly, turning from slate blue to honey, then to a gentle white. If your mind is still holding on to the day, emails, errands, unfinished thoughts, let this landscape offer you something simpler. Water, air, light, repetition. The kind of repetition that soothes a busy nervous system. In and out. Let your forehead smooth itself. Now, in the mythology of the people who lived here, there was a word that carried the coolness of deep water, a word that felt like the underside of the world, hidden but nourishing. Abzu. The Abzu was imagined as a vast reservoir of fresh water beneath the earth, an underground ocean, calm and dark, feeding springs and wells, sustaining life in a land where the sun could be harsh. It is a beautiful image, even if you take it only as poetry. Beneath the noise of the surface world, beneath the arguments and the rushing, there is a quieter layer that keeps everything alive. If you have ever felt that your own calm is somewhere deep inside you, present but hard to reach, then you already understand the Abzu in a personal way. In the old stories, the god most closely associated with the Abzu was Enki. Enki is not introduced tonight as a thunderbolt. Think of him instead as the patron of practical wisdom, the kind of wisdom that teaches you where to place a canal, how to measure a field, how to keep records so that the village can share fairly. Enki belongs to water, but also to order, to the gentle, intelligent arrangements that make life smoother. In Eridu, Enki's temple rose and rose again over generations, rebuilt on the same sacred spot like a lullaby repeated. Archaeologists speak of layers, many layers, each one a quiet decision by a later community to honor what came before. There is something deeply comforting in that image. People, separated by centuries, returning to the same place, laying brick upon brick, not in haste, but in continuity. As you listen, imagine those layers like blankets, added one by one until warmth becomes familiar. And if you've ever built a calming ritual in your own life, making tea a certain way, turning on the same quiet music, folding a blanket just so, then you have, in a small modern way, done what Eridu did. You have returned to a center again and again to remind yourself that peace can be practiced. Civilization is not only made of wars and kings, it is made of repeated, ordinary acts. Somebody wakes early to fetch water, somebody grinds grain, somebody repairs a reed fence, somebody sits down to write. The scribe in Eridu may not have sat in a palace. He may have sat in a modest room near a courtyard, where sunlight reached the floor in a rectangle, a bowl of damp clay beside him, a stylus in his hand, the day moving slowly outside. Tap, pause, tap. He writes a list of offerings. He records a shipment of barley. He copies an old hymn, because copying, in his world, is a form of care. And while his work is practical, it is also tender, because each mark says, "This matters enough to remember." When we speak of Anu, Enlil, and Enki, it can be tempting to imagine distant, unreachable gods. But in the daily life of Mesopotamia, these names were part of a living system. They were spoken in prayers that sounded at their heart like human wishes. Let the fields be fertile, let the canals not break, let the household stay safe, let sickness pass gently, let the year be kind. Perhaps that desire is not ancient at all. Perhaps it is the same desire that brings you to a sleep story tonight. If tonight's story reminded you of a beautiful memory, feel free to share it below, only if you want to. There is no pressure here, only warmth. Here, no one rests alone. Every story from the past is a soft lantern in the dark, gently lighting our way tonight. Now, as the day in Eridu warms, let's walk through the city without hurry. We pass a small canal lined with reeds. The reeds click softly in the breeze. A woman kneels to rinse a clay bowl, the water sliding over her fingers. A man carries a basket of dates, their skins dark and glossy. In the shade, someone mends a net. In another courtyard, bread bakes, and the smell is faintly sweet like comfort. Above, the sky is wide, and the sky, in Mesopotamia, was never just decoration. It was a clock, a guide, a reminder that even when human lives felt uncertain, the stars returned with dependable grace. If you've ever stepped outside after a long day and looked up just for a moment and felt your chest loosen, then you know what the sky can do. It can place your worries into a larger frame where they don't have to shout. Tonight, we will not drown in astronomy. We will only take one gentle idea. The heavens move in cycles, and those cycles taught ancient people something about patience. Nothing needs to happen all at once. Not healing, not understanding, not sleep. Now somewhere in the long chain from Eridu to Nineveh, from marshland to library, stories travelled. Some were carried by merchants, some by priests, some by scribes copying old tablets before the old ones cracked. And because clay can break, the act of copying was like a quiet rescue. Imagine a young scribe in a later city holding an older tablet carefully, reading its signs by lamplight, then pressing those signs into fresh clay. He is not inventing, he is preserving, he is making sure the river of memory keeps flowing. And what kinds of memories were worth preserving? Not only laws and receipts, but stories about beginnings, stories that asked, who are we? And how did we come to live here between these rivers under this sky? Some of those stories spoke of a time when the world was less settled, when the boundaries between sky, earth and water felt thinner. They spoke of councils of gods, of decisions made, of order shaped out of chaos, not as horror, but as a way of explaining why the world has structure. In those stories, the Abzu remains beneath everything, steady as the subconscious. Enki remains near it, the keeper of deep knowledge, the one who knows how to bend water into a canal and how to bend language into a record. And this is where the smallest seed of curiosity begins to glow. Because among the tablets pulled from Nineveh, among the fragments that scholars fitted together like quiet puzzles, there were texts that did not sound like simple hymns or lists. They sounded like echoes of something older, a tale of a great flood, told not with screaming, but with the hush of inevitability, like rain that falls for days, then finally stops. A list of kings whose reigns were impossibly long, written without excitement, as if time itself could stretch and compress. A reference to me, sacred powers or decrees, ideas of civilization spoken of as if they could be gathered and guarded like precious tools. These are not the kinds of details that demand belief. As they are the kinds of details that invite contemplation. Why did people imagine time in such long waves? Why did they keep returning to water as both giver and taker? Why did they picture knowledge as something that could be held, stored, catalogued? Perhaps because knowledge is the gentlest kind of survival. Perhaps because in a world where floods could erase a season's work, the idea of preserving wisdom felt like building a raft. And perhaps that is why the Library of Ashurbanipal matters so much for our story tonight, because it is, in a sense, a raft made of clay. A raft that carried the voices of marshland cities into a future they could not picture. As you settle deeper, let your breathing become a little slower, as if you are matching the pace of canal water. In and out. In the next part, we will lift a single tablet, just one, and we will listen to it the way you might listen to the ocean through a seashell. We won't rush, we won't argue, we will simply notice what the old words suggest, that beneath the surface of history there is a calm reservoir, and that sometimes, when you touch the past gently, it touches you back. We take a single tablet now, and we do it the way you would take a sleeping child from a couch. Slowly, with respect, with the feeling that any sudden movement might break the spell of quiet. Picture a work table in a museum laboratory. The room is softly lit, not bright, not cold, just enough light to make edges clear. A pair of cotton gloves. A shallow tray lined with foam. And on it, a piece of baked clay the color of desert bread. At first, the marks look like texture, a field of tiny angles. But when you look longer, the marks begin to gather into lines, and the lines begin to gather into meaning. It's a strange, gentle miracle, a mind across thousands of years speaking without voice. The tablet we hold tonight does not have to be famous. It doesn't have to be the Epic of Gilgamesh, or a royal inscription, or a grand hymn that makes scholars sit up straight. It can be something quieter, something that belonged to ordinary order. A list, a record, a catalogue, because catalogues, in a way, are lullabies for anxious minds. A catalogue says there is a place for everything. A catalogue says the world can be sorted, and therefore it can be endured. And as you listen, I invite you to let your own thoughts become like shelves. Not shelves that trap you, but shelves that hold things safely for later. If a worry comes, place it on a shelf and close the drawer gently. You can return to it tomorrow when the sun is kind in and out. Now, among the many kinds of tablets in Mesopotamia, there were tablets that tried to do something very human. They tried to place time itself into a frame. They tried to measure it, name it, give it a beginning and a sequence. One of the most curious examples is what we call the Sumerian king list. Even the phrase feels calm, doesn't it? A list, not a prophecy, not a threat, just a list, as if time were a line of people waiting quietly in the night. On this list, kings appear one after another, each with a reign measured in years. But some reigns, especially in the earliest sections, are written with numbers so large they feel like dreams. The mind, if it is wide awake, might want to calculate, to test, to dispute. But tonight, we let the numbers be what they are in the story, a sensation of deep time, a sensation that the ancient scribes were trying to express something beyond ordinary memory, something like, once, long ago, the world was different, time moved differently. Or perhaps our way of speaking about time was different. If you've ever looked at the night sky and felt that a single hour could be both short and infinite, you already understand that time has moods. It stretches when you miss someone, it compresses when you are busy, it blurs when you are in love, it slows when you are safe. So maybe those enormous reigns are not meant to be taken as a strict calendar. Maybe they are a poetic way of saying the beginning is far, far away, and we can only point to it with big, soft gestures. And after those dreamlike reigns, the list moves into more familiar measurements. It begins to sound more like a human city again. Names shorten, years become plausible, the world settles. That settling is comforting. It suggests a transition from mythic distance into the steady pace of days. Now there is a phrase associated with the king list that appears in different forms across texts. And it is so simple, it could be whispered, kingship descended from heaven. In the ancient imagination, leadership was not merely a human invention, it was part of cosmic order, a gift, a burden, a responsibility that connected earth to sky. And whether or not we believe that, we can still feel what the phrase was trying to do. It was trying to calm uncertainty. It was trying to say, there is a pattern here, there is a reason life has structure. For a tired modern listener, someone who has carried too many decisions, too many responsibilities, the idea that order is something that can be received rather than forced can feel like relief. You don't have to grip everything so tightly. Some things can be allowed to arrive. Now let's step away from lists and into a slow walk through a city at dusk. You are in southern Mesopotamia again, where canals lace through neighborhoods like quiet veins. The sun is low, the mud bricks hold warmth from the day and release it slowly into the evening air. Somewhere, a reed flute plays a few notes, then stops, as if the player smiled and decided that silence was enough. At the center of the city, rising in careful stages, is a ziggurat. A ziggurat is not a pyramid in the Egyptian sense. It is a layered platform, a stepped mountain built by hands, reaching upward in a way that feels like a prayer. Each terrace is broad, solid, patient. The surface is plastered and maintained. The corners are sharp. The stairs climb at a measured angle, inviting not rushing, but procession. And at the top there is a small shrine, not a throne room, but a room prepared. In some descriptions, the shrine contains ordinary objects, a bed, a table, offerings, linens. The idea is not that a god lived there the way a human lives, but that the space was kept ready, as if hospitality itself was sacred. There is something deeply soothing about that image, a room prepared in advance, a place made tidy, a quiet certainty that someone might come, and if they do, they will be welcomed gently. If you've ever made your own bed and felt, even briefly, that life became more manageable, you understand the psychology of that shrine. It is order as comfort, ritual as a soft anchor. And maybe that is one of the me. The me were spoken of as decrees, powers, or foundational principles, pieces of civilization's invisible architecture. The ancient texts sometimes list them in long sequences, but tonight we do not need the long sequence. We only need to imagine a small wooden box, opened slowly, containing a handful of simple tools: writing, music, craft, law, ceremony, the skills that help people live together without constant fear. The box is not glittering. It is useful, and usefulness is calming, because when life feels too large, we return to small tools. We return to breath, we return to warm tea, we return to gentle stories. Now, if we listen quietly to the old world, we begin to hear a theme repeating, like waves. Water remembers. Water nourishes, and water erases. A canal brings life, and a flood can take it away. In the deep background of Mesopotamian literature, there is a story of a great flood, told in different versions, in different tablets with different names, but in the tone we keep tonight, the flood is not a scream. It is a memory of water, told by water itself. Imagine rain arriving softly at first, a few drops on baked earth, a darkening of dust, then more rain, steady, patient, day after day. Rivers swell, canals overflow, fields become mirrors, people move boats where they once walked. And in the story, there is often a quiet figure, someone warned not with panic, but with instruction. Someone told to build something that floats, not in frantic terror, but in careful preparation. Because even in a flood story, the ancient imagination held on to one gentle idea. Foresight can be tender, preparation can be calm, and perhaps that is the softest discovery of all, this thread that ties the scribes to you. They lived with uncertainty too. They watched weather change, they feared loss, and still they made lists, they made rituals, they made rooms ready, they pressed words into clay, they chose again and again to make meaning durable. If you're listening tonight with a tired heart, you may recognize yourself in that choice. Maybe you don't need to solve everything. Maybe you only need one small act of order, one soft breath, one gentle sentence, one story held like a lantern. And as we move forward, the lantern will brighten just a little, not into harsh light, but into a warm glow that shows us the next corridor, the scribal schools where boys learned to press wedges into clay, and the quiet discipline that turned everyday life into something recordable, something, in its own way, eternal. For now, let your eyes rest, even if they're open. Let your thoughts drift like reeds in a breeze. Somewhere, not far from the temple, there would have been a school for scribes, an Idubba, tablet house, where learning sounded less like shouting and more like steady tapping. Imagine a courtyard with a wall that holds the day's warmth, and a teacher who does not hurry. A student sits cross-legged with a lump of clay. He rolls it, flattens it, smooths it with a damp palm until the surface becomes quiet. Then the stylus begins again, wedge, wedge, wedge. At first the marks are uneven, like footsteps in new sand. And the teacher points, the student breathes, and the next line becomes steadier. In this small discipline, there is a kind of tenderness. The world is complicated, yes, but the next mark is simple. The next mark can always be made. When the tablet is filled, it is set aside to dry, and a fresh piece of clay appears, another gentle chance. If you're carrying too many thoughts tonight, you can borrow that method. Don't solve the whole world. Just return to the next breath. Just let this story be one clean line after another until your mind feels smooth again. And if sleep arrives mid-sentence, that is perfect. The ancients would have understood that kind of surrender. And I'll leave you with another question as soft as a blanket. Have you ever noticed that the most comforting things in life are often the most ordinary? Water, bread, light. And a voice that doesn't hurry. In the cities of southern Mesopotamia, there was a place that sounded less like a school and more like a promise, the tablet house. In Sumerian, it was called the Eridu, and even the syllables feel like soft clay in the mouth. It was a room where children learned not only to write, but to slow down, to press one mark at a time, and to trust that careful repetition could turn confusion into order. Tonight, we walk toward that room at an unhurried pace. The street is narrow, lined with mud brick walls that hold the day's warmth. A shallow channel of water runs along one side, reflecting bits of sky. In the distance, you can hear a donkey bray once, then silence again. Somewhere behind a doorway, a pot simmers. The air carries a smell of damp earth and smoke, familiar and human. At the entrance of the tablet house, sandals are left neatly near the threshold. Inside, the light is dimmer, filtered through reeds and an opening near the roof. A teacher sits on a low stool, not a towering figure, not a harsh voice, just a presence that suggests steadiness. Around him, students sit with lumps of clay, their fingers already dusted pale. The first lesson is not letters, the first lesson is posture. A straight back, but not rigid, a hand that holds the stylus lightly, not as a weapon but as a tool. A breath that stays slow, a mind that does not race ahead. In a world where the river could surprise you, where the harvest could fail, where the sun could burn too long, learning to be steady was a kind of protection. A student rolls his clay into a smooth rectangle. He pats it flat. He wets his palm and glides it over the surface until it looks calm, like a small pond at dawn. Then he begins. Tap, a wedge, tap, another wedge. The marks are clumsy at first, too deep, too shallow. The lines wobble. But the teacher does not scold. He points, he demonstrates, he offers the student a rhythm to borrow, the way an older musician might offer a tempo. And slowly, the student's wedges begin to align, not perfect, but improving. In the Eridu, improvement is the real magic. If you have ever learned a skill later in life, driving in a new city, using a new tool, beginning a new job, you know how soothing it can be when something finally makes sense. The nervous system relaxes when patterns appear. The shoulders drop. The mind says quietly, I can do this. That is what the tablet house gave to a civilization, a way to make patterns visible, not just for poems and prayers, but for the small scaffolding that holds a city together. Measurements, names, agreements, the kind of writing that keeps a marketplace honest and a canal project organized. The kind of writing that turns chaos into a shared map. And perhaps the most calming thing about ancient Mesopotamia is this. So much of its greatness was ordinary. A scribe is not a conqueror. A scribe is a keeper. He keeps the memory of who owes what, yes, but also the memory of who belongs where. He keeps the dates of festivals, the lists of workers, the record of offerings. He keeps the words of myths because myths are also a kind of instruction, an emotional instruction. They teach a community how to feel about the world. Tonight, let that thought arrive gently. Myths are not always meant to frighten. Sometimes myths are meant to soothe by explaining. In one corner of the tablet house, older students copy an exercise that looks simple. A list of signs, over and over the same sign until the hand remembers it. Then the next sign and the next. Their faces are serious but not tense. Outside, the city continues. Bread baked, reeds cut, jars filled. But inside, time slows to the pace of tapping. Tap, pause, tap. In another corner, a younger child practices numbers, not large, frightening numbers, just small groups of strokes that represent measures of barley and jars of oil. The teacher's voice stays low as he explains how a circle of clay can become a seal, how a seal can become trust, how trust can become peace in a marketplace. A lesson in mathematics becomes, quietly, a lesson in community. Sometimes the students are sent outside to fetch water for the clay. They walk in a small line, carrying a jar, the sunlight bright on their shoulders. When they return, they pour the water carefully into a bowl, and the clay softens again. You can almost hear the sound, a gentle glug, then the hush of wet earth being kneaded. It is a sound that says, "We begin again." And sometimes, on a special day, an older scribe brings a tablet wrapped in cloth, an older tablet, copied many times. The room grows quieter the way a room grows quiet when someone opens a family album. The scribe places the tablet on the table and points to certain signs, explaining not only what they mean, but why they were remembered. He speaks of the me, those sacred principles that describe the arts of living, writing, music, metalwork, weaving, law, healing, ceremony, kingship, friendship, even the simple grace of hospitality. He does not list them all. He doesn't need to. He selects a few, the way you might select a few shells from a beach and place them on a windowsill. These, he seems to say, are the tools that make a city gentle. The students lean in, not because the story is scary, but because it feels like guidance. The me are not weapons. They are the quiet architecture of civilization. They are the invisible beams that keep a roof from collapsing. And when the scribe speaks of them, the room feels steadier, as if the air itself has been organized. If you've ever felt soothed by simple principles, be honest, be kind, do one thing at a time, you know why these ideas mattered. They were a way of saying, life is complicated, but we can build a calm structure inside it. And when the lesson ends, the students return to their own clay, pressing signs more carefully, as if they are building something small that will outlast them. If your own mind feels noisy, you can let it copy this rhythm. You do not need to understand every detail tonight. You only need to let the steady pace carry you. Now, among the texts that scribes copied, there were not only lists and hymns, but stories about order itself, about the invisible rules that keep the sky from falling into the sea and the sea from swallowing the land. In a world built on riverbanks, order was not an abstract idea. It was safety. One symbol of that order appears in myths as something surprisingly simple, a tablet. Not a tablet like the one in a museum case, but a tablet imagined as the tablet of destinies. In some stories, this tablet carried the authority to define how things should be, who leads, how seasons turn, which winds blow. The idea is not that the universe is a courtroom, but that the universe has a pattern, and that pattern can be held, at least in story form, in something as modest as a piece of clay. Think about that for a moment softly. The ancient mind pictured destiny not as a roaring monster, but as a document, a record, a set of rules you could, in theory, read. That is almost tender, isn't it? Because it means the world is not random, it is legible, it can be understood. And for human beings, understanding is one of the gentlest forms of comfort. In the mythic imagination, the tablet of destinies is sometimes stolen or seized, and order wavers. But we will not tell it as a thriller tonight. We will tell it as a quiet metaphor. When rules are confused, people feel uneasy. When rules are clear and fair, people breathe easier. You may recognize that in your own life. A calendar can be comforting when it is kind, not crowded. A routine can be soothing when it is flexible, not punishing. A boundary can be healing when it is gentle, not harsh. So when the ancient stories speak of a tablet that holds destinies, we can hear, beneath the myth, a human wish: let the world be steady enough that we can rest. And in that wish, the scribes and you are companions, because you are here tonight for steadiness too. Now imagine the tablet house again, but later in the day. Sunlight slants in, dust floats in the beam like slow snow. Students stretch their fingers, some tablets dry on a shelf. Others are broken and recycled, crumbled back into damp clay to be used again. Nothing is wasted. Even mistakes become future material. There is a lesson in that too. If you made mistakes today, small ones, awkward ones, let them be recycled. Let them return to clay. Tomorrow you can press a cleaner line. Tonight you only need rest. Outside, the city begins to cool. The canal water darkens. The sky shifts toward indigo. Lamps are lit. People speak in lower voices. Somewhere, a temple singer rehearses a hymn that will be offered like a breath to the night. And as the first stars appear, the teacher of the tablet house closes the day with a simple instruction: clean your hands, cover the clay, and go home quietly. This is where we place a small, gentle curiosity in your pocket. If the scribes could imagine a tablet that holds the world's order, what would they imagine about the water beneath their feet, the Abzu, the deep reservoir that never dries? In the next part, we will return to Enki, closer than ever, and to the cool, hidden place under the city where stories say wisdom lives. We will open that door slowly, and we will find that the most surprising discoveries are often the calmest. Tonight, we step down, not with our feet, but with our attention. If part 4 was the world of hands and clay, of students learning steady marks, then part 5 is the world beneath those marks, the cool layer under the city, the imagined reservoir that never fully sleeps. Close your eyes if you'd like, or simply soften your gaze, in and out. Picture a city in southern Mesopotamia at night. The rooftops are flat and quiet. Smoke rises in thin threads from cooking fires, then dissolves into dark air. The ziggurat stands like a stepped shadow against the stars. Somewhere a dog turns once and lies down. Somewhere else, water slips through a canal, making a sound so gentle it almost feels like silence with texture. Under the city, under the courtyards, under the tablet house, under the low walls that keep families safe from wind, there is the Abzu. In the old imagination, Abzu is not a monster. It is not a threat. It is a deep, fresh ocean held under the earth, a hidden calm that feeds springs and wells. It is a place that does not rush, a place that does not argue, a place that does not demand. And if you are tired tonight, if your mind has been running faster than your body can follow, you may find something comforting in the idea that beneath your thoughts there is a quieter layer. Not empty, just quiet, not cold, just cool, not distant, just deep. The ancient scribes pictured Enki close to that depth. Enki, sometimes called the Lord of the Earth, sometimes the Lord of Wisdom, moves through the stories like a patient teacher. In a modern world that often imagines power as loudness, Enki offers a different kind of strength, the strength of guiding. Think of him as the one who notices patterns and quietly shares them. The one who understands how water can be channeled, how soil can be measured, how words can be arranged so that a community stays gentle. The one who doesn't demand worship as fear, but as gratitude for knowledge that helps life work. If you have ever met someone in your life who made you feel steadier simply by the way they spoke, slowly, clearly, without panic, then you understand the emotional shape of Enki. Now let's imagine an early morning at Eridu again, when the air is cool and the reeds still glisten. The temple of Enki sits close to water, its walls pale with plaster. A priest sweeps the courtyard, a bowl is rinsed. A small offering is placed, not as a bargain, but as a gesture. We remember the water that keeps us alive. And in a room near the temple, a scribe prepares a tablet. The clay is fresh. It yields easily. The surface is smoothed as carefully as someone might smooth a bedsheet before sleep. The stylus is held lightly. Tap. Pause. Tap. Tonight, we listen to what such a tablet might contain. It might contain a hymn that praises the Abzu as a source of sweetness and life. Or it might contain a mythic scene, a counsel, a decision, a quiet turning of the world toward order. In Mesopotamian stories, order is not a rigid cage. It is a balance, a way of keeping water and land in conversation. And here, the idea of the me returns, those pieces of civilization's inner structure. You can imagine the me like small, gentle permissions. A permission for music to exist, a permission for writing to exist, a permission for craft and law and fairness and ceremony. Not heavy decrees, but like the quiet rules you make for yourself when you want peace. Drink water, move slowly, speak kindly, leave time for rest. Sometimes the ancient lists of me are very long. Tonight we keep only a few, as if we are choosing objects to place on a bedside table. A stylus, a bowl of water, a woven cloth, a small lamp, a song, a law that says simply, do not take what is not yours. These are not dramatic things, they are the ingredients of calm. And this is where our story offers a soft discovery that feels almost like a whisper. The ancients imagined that what made civilization possible was not violence, but knowledge. Knowledge as warmth, knowledge as hospitality, knowledge as a room prepared at the top of a ziggurat. If you let that settle, you may feel your chest loosen a little, because it suggests that even in ancient times we often imagine as harsh, people were still deeply concerned with making life livable. Now, in some myths, Enki is the keeper of these civilizing gifts. He does not hoard them like treasure. He guards them the way you might guard a family recipe or a story that helped you survive a difficult season because you know it has power and you want it to be used wisely. And here the theme of return begins to glow again. What if return is not someone arriving from somewhere else? What if return is wisdom returning quietly into human hands? What if, when a tablet is found in a ruin, the past is not haunting us, but helping us? This is the kind of twist that doesn't wake you up. It settles you. It allows the mind to stop hunting for threats and start receiving comfort. Because think about it. The scribes pressed their marks into clay, and the clay endured fires, collapses, centuries of dust, and still held the marks. Then long later, someone brushed the dust away and read, that is a return of language, a return of attention, a return of connection. If you're listening tonight in a modern room, maybe with streetlight leaking through curtains, maybe with rain tapping far away, then you are part of that return. You are receiving a message that traveled without sound for thousands of years, and there is something deeply healing in that. Now let us move gently toward the flood story again, but this time we enter it through Enki's calmness. In several ancient versions, there is a moment when the world's balance is threatened. The reason changes from text to text, but the emotional shape stays similar. There is a sense that something has grown too loud, too crowded, too restless. The world needs a reset, not as punishment, but as a return to quiet. Enki in these stories often becomes the one who saves rather than destroys, the one who warns in a way that feels like care. He speaks not as a thunderstorm, but as a hush at the edge of sleep. Prepare. Imagine a man, an ordinary kind man, hearing this instruction in the way you might hear an intuition. He does not panic. He begins to gather wood. He measures. He asks neighbors for help. He builds something that floats, not a heroic warship, but a simple vessel of survival. People bring baskets of grain. They bring jars of water. They bring animals not as drama, but as continuity, because life wants to continue. And when the rain comes, it comes steadily like a long exhale. The world becomes water, and then in time, the water recedes. The tone is important. This is not a horror scene. It is a story told by people who lived with floods, who knew the river could erase a field overnight. The story gives the flood a place in the mind. It makes it legible. It turns a terrifying unpredictability into a narrative that can be carried, so that the next flood, when it comes, does not feel like pure chaos. That too is knowledge, and knowledge, again, is calming. If you've ever felt your own life flooded by work, by worry, by too much noise, you might recognize the emotional lesson here. You do not always control the rain, but you can build small structures of safety. A bedtime routine, a quiet playlist, a gentle story, a breath counted slowly. 1, 2, 3, and out. Now we return once more to the city above the Abzu, to the temple rooms where lamps glow and shadows soften. A priest pours a libation of water, letting it soak into earth. A scribe sets a finished tablet on a shelf, its surface drying, its wedges becoming permanent. In the hush, you can almost hear a thought that is both ancient and modern. May what is good endure. May what is heavy soften. May what is restless return to calm. And if you are listening tonight with a heart that has carried too much, let this part of the story hold you. Let it remind you that the oldest civilizations did not only build monuments, they built methods for calming the mind. They built stories that made the world feel ordered enough to sleep. Have you ever noticed how a simple explanation, true or symbolic, can make your body relax? A storm feels less frightening when you understand weather. A sadness feels less sharp when you understand grief. A busy mind feels less loud when you understand that thoughts pass like water. And so, in the deep symbolic sense, the Abzu is not only beneath the city, it is beneath you. A quiet reservoir you can return to. If you'd like, try a small experiment with me. Imagine placing one worry into the Abzu, like a pebble. You simply release it gently. It sinks quietly. The surface closes, and the water does not judge you for carrying it. It holds it still until you are ready to wake again. In the next part, we will rise slowly from the underground water and follow a thread upward into the night sky. Because the people of Mesopotamia did not only look down into wells, they looked up into stars. They watched cycles so long they felt like the breathing of the universe. And in those cycles, they found another kind of comfort, the comfort of a larger rhythm that keeps turning even when individual days feel heavy. For now, let your breathing match the canal again. Let the story become a gentle current. If sleep arrives, let it arrive without resistance. Now we rise, slowly, From the cool depth of the Abzu to the open air above the city, the way a diver rises through water, unhurried, letting pressure soften, letting light return gradually. Imagine the night again in southern Mesopotamia. The canals have darkened to ink. The reed beds breathe a faint, sweet scent. Lamps glow behind doorways like small amber moons. And above everything, the sky opens, wide, ancient, and calm. For the people who lived between the Tigris and the Euphrates, the sky was not only beauty, it was a schedule, it was a promise. It was a gentle authority that did not shout. Night after night, stars returned to their places. The moon grew and thinned like a slow tide. Dawn arrived with quiet reliability, even after difficult seasons. If you've ever stepped outside after a hard day and looked up and felt, just for a moment, that your worries became smaller, you already know why ancient people watched the heavens so carefully. The sky gives perspective without judgment. It doesn't tell you you're wrong. It simply reminds you that time is larger than any single thought. Tonight, we will follow a scribe who watches the sky. Not a king, not a warrior, just a person with a careful eye and a patient hand. He climbs the steps of a ziggurat at twilight, when the heat of day has finally loosened its grip. Each step is broad, each step is steady. The stone and brick hold warmth like a hand that has been near fire. Up here, the city sounds grow smaller. Voices, animals, pots, distant laughter, until they blend into a single, soft murmur. At the top, near the small shrine, the air is cooler. A faint breeze moves across the terrace. The scribe settles beside a low table with a lump of clay and a stylus. He does not rush to write. First, he waits. Waiting is part of the work. He watches the first star appear, a pinprick of light in the deepening blue. Then another. Then another. The sky becomes a quiet page and the stars become marks. Tap. Pause. Tap. He begins to record. In Mesopotamia, this watching was not merely superstition, it was observation. Over generations, scribes and scholars noticed patterns. Where the moon rose, how it moved, how certain stars returned in certain seasons. They learned the rhythm of eclipses, they divided the circle of the sky. They learned to name constellations the way we name neighborhoods, so the mind could navigate the dark with less fear. Sometimes their attention lingered on one bright wanderer that moved differently from the fixed stars. We call it Venus. To them, it was a familiar presence that could appear in the west at dusk, then vanish, then return in the east before sunrise, like a quiet traveler changing roads. In later Babylonian times, careful observers recorded these appearances with extraordinary patience, noticing how the planet's shining visits followed a repeating pattern. Even if we keep the details light, the feeling remains the same. The heavens were readable, and that readability was comforting. On certain nights, the scribe marks the horizon where Venus sets. Then he waits for the morning when it rises again. He does not treat it as a command, he treats it as a rhythm. And rhythm, again, is what tired minds crave. He also pays attention to the months, because months are the moon made practical. A new crescent appears, thin as a smile, and the city knows it is time to begin again, to count days, to plan a festival, to forgive a debt, to rest from labor when rest is due. Imagine how calming it is to let the moon do the remembering for you. No frantic checking, no rushing, just looking up and knowing where you are in the cycle. If you've ever relied on a simple sign to steady you, a Sunday morning light, a familiar song, the smell of rain, then you understand what a lunar calendar offered, a gentle structure that did not shout. And there is something soothing in that human instinct, to name what you see so it feels closer. If the modern world sometimes overwhelms you with too much information, remember that these ancient records were not meant to overload. They were meant to steady, to make life predictable enough for planting, harvesting, traveling, celebrating. The scribe presses one line of wedges into clay, then stops to look up again. His face is calm, his eyes reflect faint starlight. He is not trying to control the heavens, he is trying to listen. In some cities, scribes served temples and their sky records were part of ritual life. In others, they served rulers, offering calendars and omens. But tonight, we take the softest interpretation. They were keepers of rhythm. They were saying in their quiet way, "The world turns, and because it turns, you can rest." The moon rises now, pale and round, lifting itself over the flat horizon like a slow breath, becoming visible. The terrace stones catch a faint silver sheen. Somewhere below, a family's courtyard grows quieter as children fall asleep, heads against a mother's lap. Somewhere else, a man shuts a wooden door, and the sound is gentle, final, reassuring. The scribe looks at the moon and thinks of water. Because in Mesopotamia, the moon and water were always in conversation. Tides were distant, yes, but the feeling of pull and cycle was familiar. Rivers rose and fell. The moon waxed and waned. A body grew tired and then renewed. Life, in its kindest form, moved in circles. If you are listening from a modern city, maybe with traffic far away, maybe with a phone charging beside you, your body still lives by circles too. Your heart keeps a steady beat, your lungs rise and fall, your eyelids grow heavy. Sleep comes not as a decision, but as a turning. And this is where we offer a soft discovery, a fact that feels like poetry. The sky itself turns so slowly that a human life might not notice, and yet so surely that time cannot escape it. Long ago, Mesopotamian observers noticed that the positions of stars shifted across centuries. Much later, we would describe this as the slow wobble of Earth's axis, a grand and gentle motion that takes roughly 26,000 years to complete. It is like the universe breathing in a cycle too large for our daily minds. You do not need to hold the number, don't calculate it. Just let the idea wash over you. Even the sky has a long, slow sway. And perhaps when you feel impatient with your own healing, when you wish you could change faster, sleep faster, calm down faster, you can remember that the heavens teach a different lesson. Nothing deep happens quickly. A river carves a valley by returning again and again. A city becomes wise by learning the same truths for generations. A heart becomes softer by practicing kindness in small moments. So tonight, the sky becomes not a problem to solve, but a teacher to sit with. The scribe writes again, recording the moon's phase, the stars rising, the shape of the night. His wedges are small, consistent, almost musical. The clay accepts each mark the way sand accepts footsteps. And as he writes, he feels himself become part of something bigger, part of a chain of watchers, each one passing a quiet message forward. If you've ever felt alone, remember this. Many people across time have stared at a dark sky and felt the same mix of wonder and longing, the same desire for order, the same wish to feel held by something larger. And that wish is not weakness, it is human. Below the terrace, the city's lamps flicker. A breeze carries the smell of baked bread from somewhere still awake. Farther off, the marshlands exhale. Somewhere in the reeds, a bird shifts in its sleep. The scribe pauses and touches the edge of his tablet lightly, as if he is checking that the marks are real. Then he sets it aside to dry. Another tablet lies nearby, already hardened, already ready to be stored. A shelf of quiet nights preserved. This is how time becomes gentle, by being recorded with care. Now let your mind drift to a museum again, a modern one, a glass case, a tablet inside, lit softly. Cuneiform wedges like small waves frozen mid-motion, a label with a date and a place, and you, standing there, or imagining yourself standing there, realizing that the person who pressed those wedges lived, breathed, worried, and hoped. If tonight's story is reminding you of someone you've loved, someone whose voice you miss, let that memory be welcome. You don't have to hold it tightly. You can let it sit beside you like a warm cup. Have you ever felt that the night sky makes you kinder to yourself? Because it stretches your perspective, and in that stretch the sharp edges of self-judgment soften. The scribe descends from the ziggurat now. His sandals make quiet sounds on steps. He carries his tablet carefully wrapped in cloth. He walks home through narrow streets. Dogs lift their heads, then settle again. A door opens, then closes. Inside his house, his family sleeps. He sets the tablet in a safe place and lies down, letting the world be held by the sky while he rests. And as you listen, you can do the same. You do not have to hold the whole day any longer. Let the sky hold it. Let the Abzu hold what is heavy. Let the canal water carry away what you do not need tonight. In the next part, we will return to the library, the great sleeping storehouse of clay, and we will trace how these sky records, these myths, and these ordinary lists traveled, broke, were copied, and returned to us as fragments that still shine. Because sometimes the most beautiful thing is not a perfect story, but a broken one that still speaks. For now, breathe slowly, in and out. And if sleep is already near, let it come closer, like moonlight sliding across a floor. And you are safe here. Now we return, gently, to the library again, not as a dramatic rediscovery, but as a quiet room where time has folded itself into layers. Imagine Nineveh at night, long after the city's voices have faded. Imagine the palace corridors silent. Imagine roofs collapsed into soft hills of dust. And beneath that dust, the tablets resting the way stones rest at the bottom of a river, still patient, waiting for hands that will arrive much later. In and out. If your body is heavy, let it be heavy. If your thoughts are scattered, let them be scattered. Tonight, we are not asking your mind to work hard. We are simply walking beside a few gentle people who learned to listen to fragments, because that is what the tablets often were when they returned to daylight. Fragments, broken corners, cracked edges, a handful of wedges on a shard no larger than a palm. Time does not always preserve things whole. It preserves them in pieces, like seashells after a tide. And yet, even a piece can carry a voice. In the years after Layard's excavations, thousands of tablets and fragments traveled to museums where they were cleaned and sorted. Picture a bright room in London or Paris, but keep it quiet in your imagination, quiet as a winter afternoon. Tables covered with trays, labels written in careful ink, scholars leaning close under lamplight, their faces calm, their fingers steady. A fragment is lifted, turned slightly. The wedges catch the light. A sign appears, a second sign, a familiar pattern. This work is not quick. It is not like reading a modern book where words arrive in smooth lines. It is more like listening to a distant radio station, adjusting the dial slowly until a melody comes through. A scholar might spend an hour on a single sign, comparing it to other signs, checking how it appears in different contexts, noticing tiny variations. The mind must become patient. The body must become still. The room must become almost meditative. And perhaps that is why the act of translating ancient clay is itself a kind of sleep story. It asks for slowness. It rewards quiet attention. It teaches you that meaning can return even after long silence. Sometimes the fragments fit together. A broken edge matches another broken edge, and suddenly a line becomes complete. It is a small satisfaction, not a loud one. More like the relief you feel when you find a missing puzzle piece under the couch and your hands finally set it in place. Click. Not a real sound, but a feeling. There is a particular hush that settles over the table when two fragments nearly meet. The scholar holds one piece in the left hand, the other in the right, and brings them close without touching, as if letting the air between them decide. A tiny ridge appears, a curve of broken clay that matches its twin. The fingertips adjust by a breath's width. Then at last, the edges kiss, and a line that was interrupted becomes a line again. One wedge leans into another wedge. A name returns, simple as water. A verb returns, gentle as a door closing. The scholar exhales without noticing, and the whole room seems to exhale too. It is not triumph, it is reunion. It is the feeling of finding a familiar street after being lost. And for a moment the past is not distant. It is right here, held carefully, asking only for quiet. Somewhere beyond the windows the modern city moves, but here, time whispers softly again. And sometimes the fragments do not fit. They remain lonely pieces with only a few signs that hint at a larger whole. In those moments, the scholar learns a gentle humility. Some things will remain unfinished. Some stories will remain open. And that is not a failure. It is simply the shape time has chosen if you've ever had a season of life that felt incomplete. Plans interrupted, conversations unfinished, questions without answers. Then you understand this tenderness. Not everything needs closure in order to be meaningful. A fragment can still be beautiful. In museums, there are drawers and drawers of these pieces. Each drawer is lined with soft material like a small bed. Each fragment has a number, a quiet identity. And if you imagine walking down those aisles, you can feel how the world's noise falls away. The air is cool, the lights are gentle. The only sound is the soft slide of a drawer opening, then closing. Inside one drawer you might find a list of barley rations written by someone who cared about fairness. Inside another, a school exercise where a student practiced the same sign again and again. Inside another, a hymn where someone asked the gods for rain and calm. And inside another, a story, fragment, mythic, poetic, where the world feels wide. Tonight, we choose a fragment that feels like it belongs to our theme of return. It might be only a few lines, but those lines speak of water and memory. They speak of a great flood told not with panic, but with the quiet logic of nature. Or they speak of a king walking a city wall at night, counting bricks as if counting breaths. Or they speak of a boat drifting on endless water, waiting for land the way a tired mind waits for sleep. We don't need the whole epic tonight, we only need the sensation. The ancients knew that water can carry both danger and comfort, and they wrote about it so that the mind could hold it safely. Now let's pause in the museum room again, because something gentle happens here that is easy to overlook. The scholar is not only translating old words, the scholar is practicing care. Care for an object that could crumble. Care for a culture that cannot speak for itself anymore. Care for a human voice that once sat by lamplight and pressed wedges into clay. And that care travels forward too. It becomes part of the story. It becomes part of the chain of kindness that links you to the past. If you feel alone tonight, remember this. There is a quiet community across time. There are scribes who wrote to be remembered. There are excavators who brush dust away without rushing. There are scholars who listen to fragments. And there are listeners, like you, who let the old words become a soft lantern rather than a sharp argument. Here, no one rests alone. Now we return to the image of brokenness because it holds a calm lesson. When a tablet breaks, its words do not vanish, they scatter. Some signs remain on one piece, some on another. The meaning becomes harder to see, but it is not gone. It is simply distributed. Isn't that how memory can be? A childhood home is not remembered in one perfect scene. It is remembered in fragments: the smell of soap, the sound of a gate, the way sunlight fell on a floor. A loved one is remembered in small moments: a laugh, a phrase, the warmth of a hand. We carry people in pieces, and those pieces are enough. So perhaps the broken tablets are not only archaeological objects, perhaps they are mirrors. They remind us that a life does not need to be seamless to be whole. The mind can gather meaning from fragments and still feel held, in and out. And now, in the softest way, we come to a discovery that does not shout. Many of the tablets in the library were not written at the same time. They were copied, recopied, standardized, edited. A scribe in one century might copy a text that came from another century, smoothing its language, preserving its rhythm. Over generations, stories became braided like reeds woven into a mat. This means that the past is not one voice. It is many voices layered gently, agreeing sometimes, differing sometimes, but all participating in the same human project, to make sense of living. If you've ever told a family story, how your grandparents met, how a childhood event happened, you know how the story changes slightly with each teller. Not to deceive, but to keep the story alive. The version you heard is not the only version, but it is still true in its feeling. It still carries the warmth of connection. That is what the clay tablets do. They do not offer a single final answer. They offer a chorus of attempts, a chorus of people trying, in their own way, to keep the world understandable, and in that there is peace. Because peace does not come from perfect certainty. Peace comes from gentle relationship. From knowing you belong to a long line of human beings who have always asked, what is life, and how do we live it well? Tonight, you do not need to answer that question. You only need to let it be a soft thought, floating like dust in lamplight. Now we end this part with a small scene, the kind that helps the mind drift towards sleep. Imagine a curator late in the day when the museum has closed. The halls are quiet, the lights are dimmed. The curator walks past glass cases, past statues, past stone reliefs of ancient kings and winged creatures. He stops at a drawer and opens it slowly. Inside are fragments, each one resting in its own small cradle. He checks a label, adjusts a piece so it sits more safely, then closes the drawer again with a gentle push. That is all. No applause, no drama, just care. And somewhere, far away, in a modern bedroom, a listener breathes slowly and hears this story, and the fragments become less like broken things and more like soft seeds, proof that even after collapse, something can return. In the next part, we will follow one of those seeds into a fuller scene, a quiet walk along a city wall, a river in the distance, and a king who is not searching for conquest, but for meaning. We will let the epic feel like moonlight, wide, reflective, and calm enough to sleep beside. We drift now from the museum drawers and the careful hands of scholars to a city that once stood bright beside the river, Uruk. Even the name feels like a low bell in the distance. Uruk, ancient, steady, familiar in the world of clay. And tonight, we do not enter Uruk through battle or spectacle. We enter it through evening air, through brick warmed by sun, through the quiet moment when a long day releases its grip and becomes night. If you like, imagine yourself walking slowly barefoot along a wide mud brick street. The bricks are smooth from many footsteps. Somewhere nearby, a canal carries water with a soft, continuous sound, the kind that makes your thoughts stop arguing and start drifting in and out. Uruk was, in its time, a great city, famous for walls, for temples, for the sheer fact of people living together in such number, sharing work, sharing markets, sharing festivals, sharing the same sky. It was a place where writing grew practical and then poetic, where the scribe's wedge marks became a doorway into memory. And when we speak of Uruk, a name often arrives with it, like a shadow that is not frightening but meaningful: Gilgamesh. In many modern retellings, Gilgamesh is loud with heroism. Tonight we let him be quieter. We let him be a man who has discovered something every tired adult knows. Even the strongest body cannot hold off time forever. Even the busiest life cannot escape the question of what matters. So imagine Gilgamesh not in triumph, but in a late-night walk. He steps onto the city wall when the moon is rising. The wall is wide enough for two people to walk side by side. The bricks are set in careful courses and the mortar smells faintly of earth. From up here, he can see rooftops, courtyards, small lamps glowing like fireflies. Beyond the wall, he can see fields and the darker ribbon of the river moving toward the sea with patient inevitability. He walks slowly, not because he is weak, because the night asks for slowness. As he walks, he runs his hand along the brickwork. Each brick feels slightly different. One a little rough, one a little smoother, one with a tiny chip that catches the fingertip. The wall is not only defense, it is a record of labor. Thousands of hands over years lifting mud, shaping bricks, drying them, stacking them, a city made by repetition. And here is the soft discovery hiding in a famous epic: the wall is the hero too. A wall is what remains when a day ends. A wall is what holds a community together. A wall is what time can touch without destroying at once. If you have ever built something modest, raised a child, tended a garden, kept a household, running through difficult seasons, you understand this kind of heroism. It is not loud, it is steady. Tonight, as Gilgamesh walks, he is not counting enemies, he is counting meaning. He is looking down at sleeping homes and realizing that each life is small and precious and brief. The city is large, and yet every person inside it will someday be gone, like smoke that dissolves into dawn air. This is not meant to scare you, it is meant to soften you, because when we remember that life is brief, we become kinder, we stop gripping so hard, we begin to choose what is gentle. Gilgamesh pauses and looks at the stars. He has watched them since childhood. They have always been there, steady above the river plain. And in that steadiness he feels both comfort and longing. The sky does not hurry him. It simply reflects his question back to him without words. In some versions of the story, Gilgamesh's deepest change begins after he loses his companion, Enkidu. We will not describe loss with sharpness tonight. We will describe it as a quiet, empty place that appears in the heart when someone you love is no longer beside you. You may know that feeling. A chair that stays empty. A message thread that stops. A name you still want to speak. In the epic, Enkidu is more than a friend. He is a mirror that helps Gilgamesh become human. Their companionship is a bridge between wilderness and city, between impulse and responsibility. And when that bridge is gone, Gilgamesh begins to wander, not in rage, but in yearning. He wants to understand what lasts. He wants to find a way to keep love from vanishing. He wants, in the simplest words, to be less afraid of time. So his walking on the wall becomes a kind of meditation. Each step says, I am here. Each breath says, I cannot hold everything. The night wind says, let go a little. If you are listening tonight with your own quiet fears about aging, about change, about the future, let this story sit beside you like a warm hand. You are not the first person to wonder how to live inside time. Ancient people wondered too, and they did not always find answers, but they found ways to keep walking gently. In the epic, Gilgamesh eventually seeks Utnapishtim, a figure associated with the flood story, someone who has seen the world reset by water and has carried survival forward. But tonight, we will not rush to the far journey. We will stay in Uruk a little longer because Uruk itself offers the lesson we need. Look again at the wall. It is made of earth. It will erode someday, and yet while it stands, it holds the city's peace. The wall is a reminder that nothing is permanent, but many things can endure long enough to matter. Your own life is like that. Your days are like bricks. Each day is set beside the next, and the structure becomes a story. Not a perfect story, just a human one. And the meaning is not only in the grand moments. The meaning is in the gentle repetitions, making dinner, answering kindly, breathing through stress, turning off a light, choosing rest. Gilgamesh resumes walking. The moon climbs higher. The city below grows quieter. Somewhere, a baby sighs in sleep. Somewhere, an old man coughs once and then settles again. Somewhere, a dog circles and lies down. The ordinary sounds of life continue, soft and faithful. And above all of it, the stars keep their patient order. If you find yourself drifting, let the images blur slightly. The wall, the river, the lamps, the moon. It is okay if your mind stops following each sentence. You can let the story become a calm background current, like water under reeds. Now, there is a famous line, or rather a famous gesture, at the end of some versions of the epic. The storyteller points again to the wall of Uruk, as if saying, "Look, this is what remains." Not the fights, not the boasting, but the built thing, the community made visible in brick. And that gesture can become your gentle twist tonight. Perhaps what lasts is not a secret object or an impossible immortality. Perhaps what lasts is what you build quietly in the lives around you. A kind word that someone remembers, a safe home, a routine that steadies a child, a friendship that teaches you to breathe again. Those are walls too, in the best sense, structures of care. Down in the city, not far from the wall, a small room stays awake a little longer than the others. A scribe sits near a lamp, and beside him lies a tablet, still damp at the edges. He is copying an old story into clay, the way a gardener might transplant a cutting so it can keep living. The story has been told aloud for years, sung, murmured, recited in courtyards when the heat finally eases. Children fall asleep to it on woven mats. Adults listen with half-closed eyes after long shifts, and the voice becomes part of the night air. The scribe's reed stylus moves with practiced gentleness. He writes the city's name with care, then the king's name, then the name of the friend who made the king softer. He does not write to entertain in the modern sense. He writes to steady the community. Stories, in this world, are like canals. They guide the flow of feeling so it doesn't flood the streets. Outside his doorway, date palms rustle faintly. A moth circles the lamp and drifts away. The scribe pauses, wets his fingers, smooths a tiny ridge in the clay and continues. Tap, pause, tap. Each line is a small promise that the city's memory will not vanish overnight. Even if walls fall someday, even if names fade, the rhythm of the story can return, copied again, found again, listened to again, like rain remembered by dry soil. And perhaps that is why the epic feels so human. It is not only about a king, but about the way a community teaches itself to live with time without losing its tenderness. If tonight's story reminded you of a beautiful memory, you can share it below if you wish, or you can keep it private, like a small lamp inside your chest. Either way, it belongs to you. Here, no one rests alone. Every story from the past is a soft lantern in the dark, gently lighting our way tonight. And now, as we prepare to move onward, we place a small question in the quiet space between breaths. If you could build one gentle wall in your life, one steady habit, one calm boundary, one simple kindness, what would it be? You don't have to answer. You can simply let the question drift like a leaf on water. In the next part, we will follow Gilgamesh beyond the wall and beyond the city, into a landscape of long roads and open horizons. But we will travel the way the epic can travel in a sleep story, slowly, with warmth, letting each scene feel like moonlight on clay. For now, breathe, in and out, and let the wall of Uruk become a lullaby of bricks repeating steady, holding you while sleep draws nearer. We leave the wall of Uruk behind us now, and the city becomes smaller in the distance, like a warm lamp seen through a narrowing doorway. The night air is cool, and the road outside the gate is pale with dust. No trumpets, no crowds, only a traveler's pace and the soft agreement of footsteps and breath, in and out. Let the ground support you without effort tonight. If you are listening from a busy modern life, emails, schedules, bright screens, imagine that each step away from the city is a step away from noise. Not because noise is wrong, but because your mind deserves a wide horizon now, a horizon that doesn't ask anything from you. Gilgamesh walks, but tonight he is not the loud hero of carved reliefs. Tonight he is a tired man with a tender question. His companion is gone, and the absence has opened a quiet space inside him, a space where he can finally hear time. The road stretches across fields that fade into dry land. Morning begins cool, then warms. The wind moves in long, slow lines, brushing the landscape the way a hand brushes a sleeping shoulder. He carries little. Cloak, water skin, a few provisions, but the heaviest thing he carries is invisible. The wish that love could be kept, the wish that life could stay. We do not judge that wish. We simply place it gently in the story, the way you might place a letter inside a drawer and close it with care. As the days pass, the horizon changes. Dust becomes finer, stone grows warmer. Then one evening the air turns faintly damp, and the wind carries a distant saltiness. Gilgamesh reaches the edge of a world that feels wider than any road, the sea. The sea is a different kind of time. A river has direction, but the sea is made of waves that rise and fall, without hurry and without end. If you have ever sat near the ocean and listened, you know how quickly your thoughts begin to soften. The sea does not argue. It repeats. Tonight, we let the sea be our teacher. Gilgamesh follows the shoreline until he finds a small dwelling near a garden. The garden is surprising after so much dry land, shade, vines, fruit, a scent of sweetness in the air. Lantern light glows through woven curtains. A woman sits near the entrance, watching the last light fade. In the epic, her name is Siduri. Tonight, she is not a test. She is simply someone who has learned how to live beside the sea. She looks up as Gilgamesh approaches. She sees the dust on his feet, the tiredness in his eyes, and instead of fear, her face holds recognition. "Sit," she says softly. He sits on a low bench. A cup is placed in his hand, cool water with a hint of herbs. The rim touches his lips, and for a moment the body remembers how to be simple again. Gilgamesh speaks of his longing. He has heard of a man who survived the great flood and was granted a life beyond ordinary years, Utnapishtim. He wants to find him, not to become a god, but to learn whether anything can truly last. Siduri listens, then answers with the gentlest kind of truth. A truth that doesn't demand agreement, only softness. She gestures to the garden, the bread, the clean water, the cloth that can cover a tired body at night. And then, quietly, she gestures to the sea. It is wide, she says. You cannot hold it in your hands, but you can sit beside it. You can listen. You can let it wash your thoughts. If your mind is tense tonight, borrow this. You do not need to hold everything. You can sit beside the endlessness and be small, and that can be peaceful. Gilgamesh rests one night in Siduri's place. He sleeps lightly at first, then deeper, as the sea repeats its long breathing outside. When he wakes, the sky is pale, and the garden smells fresh. Siduri gives him simple directions to find a boatman who knows the waters beyond the ordinary world. Before he leaves, Siduri offers one more small ritual. She places a date in his palm, warm from the kitchen, and a pinch of salt beside it, sweet and mineral, land and sea. Taste, she says, and remember, balance is the quiet art. Gilgamesh eats slowly. The sweetness arrives first, then the salt, and the two together feel strangely comforting, like an honest truth made gentle. Outside, the shoreline is almost empty. A few shells lie scattered like small moons. The tide slides in, slides out, repeating its patient sentence. Siduri does not ask him to promise anything. She only watches the water with him for a while, letting silence do the teaching. And in that shared silence, his grief seems to loosen, not because it disappears, but because it is held by something wider. Have you ever noticed how the simplest sounds, water moving, wind in reeds, can make the mind stop trying so hard? If you like, let your breath match the tide in, out, softly. So Gilgamesh walks again, and the road feels less sharp. He finds the boatman near a small cove where dark rocks meet calm water. In the epic, his name is Urshanabi. Tonight, he is a man of steady hands and patient eyes, the kind of person you trust with distance. The boat is simple: wood, rope, a low hull that sits quietly in the water. Urshanabi checks knots, tests the oar, and then they set off. The shoreline slides away. The water changes color. The surface becomes a moving sheet of glass, then a field of gentle ripples. The boat cuts through with a soft hush. They travel through a region the epic calls the waters of death, an ominous phrase in modern ears. But tonight we hear it more calmly. Waters that cannot be touched, waters that remind you of limits. The boatman instructs Gilgamesh not to dip his hands in, not as fear, but as respect. Some boundaries are simply boundaries. So Gilgamesh sits still. He watches the horizon. He counts breaths instead of worries. The boat moves like a cradle, in and out. After long hours, land appears again, dark and quiet, with trees that stand like silhouettes. The air smells of damp earth and something ancient. They approach a shore that feels like the edge of a story. Utnapishtim's dwelling is not a palace. It is simple, set back from the water, surrounded by stillness. A man steps out, older than ordinary, but not monstrous. His eyes are calm. His voice carries the softness of someone who has watched many seasons pass and has stopped rushing. Gilgamesh tells his story. Utnapishtim listens without interruption. Then, in the way of elders, he answers with a story rather than a command. He speaks of the flood like one speaks of a storm that once came and then left. He remembers building the boat. He remembers rain that lasted. He remembers the world becoming water. And he remembers the moment the water finally receded, leaving silence so deep it felt like a new beginning. He explains gently that the life beyond ordinary years was not something he seized. It was something given, and it came with its own loneliness, because when you outlast everyone you love, time becomes a quieter room. This is the soft discovery. Immortality is not only a gift, it can be a distance. Utnapishtim offers Gilgamesh a small test, not as punishment, but as demonstration. "Stay awake," he says, "for 7 nights." Gilgamesh tries. He sits upright. He focuses. He tightens his will. But the body is honest, and the sea air is gentle, and the long road has worn him thin. His eyelids grow heavy. His breathing slows. Sleep takes him quietly. The way sleep takes you when you finally stop fighting. When Gilgamesh wakes, small loaves of bread sit beside him, one for each day he slept, growing staler, in order, a quiet calendar of surrender. He touches them and understands without shame he is human, and being human includes needing rest. Utnapishtim does not mock him. Instead, he offers a final kindness, a hint of a plant that grows in deep water, said to renew youth. Gilgamesh goes to the water's edge, ties stones to his feet, and steps down carefully, holding his breath. The water is cold and clear. He sinks slowly. His fingers reach into the depths, and at last they touch something living, a plant with resilient leaves. He brings it up like a small green promise. On the way back, he rests beside a pool. He sets the plant near him and washes the dust from his skin. And in that ordinary moment, a moment without drama, a snake slides from the grass, takes the plant, and disappears, leaving only a faint ripple and the empty place where the promise sat. There is no scream, only a pause. Gilgamesh watches the ripple widen and fade, and then slowly he laughs, not in joy, but in recognition. The world's lessons often come with simplicity. The snake sheds its skin and lives on, renewed in its own way. The plant returns to the earth. Cycles continue. Gilgamesh stands, breathes, and feels something in him shift. Not resignation, but acceptance, the kind that finally allows the shoulders to drop. He returns toward Uruk, not empty-handed. He returns with a clearer heart. He has learned that what lasts is not a stolen secret, but the quiet things we build and the kindness we practice. If you are listening tonight with your own longing to control what cannot be controlled, let this part of the story be a gentle hand on your back. You do not need to win against time, you can befriend it. In the next part, we will come home again to bricks, canals, and ordinary evenings, and let the lesson settle into everyday life, because the deepest peace is often found not at the end of a quest, but in the simple act of returning. The road back to Uruk is not the same road as the one he walked away on. Nothing outward has changed much. The plain is still wide, the wind still moves in long, quiet strokes, the horizon still holds its pale line where sky meets land. Yet inside Gilgamesh, something has loosened, like a fist opening slowly after holding too tightly for too long. He walks at a calmer pace now, not because he has stopped caring, but because he has learned that caring does not need to be frantic. In and out. If you are listening tonight with a tired mind, imagine yourself walking beside him. Not to arrive anywhere quickly, but to let your thoughts settle into the steady rhythm of steps. Each footfall is a small reminder. You are here, and being here is enough. The sun lowers, evening comes, the air cools, and then, after days of quiet travel, the walls of Uruk appear again, warm-colored in the dusk, large but not overwhelming. A city is a kind of promise you can see. A place where people keep lamps and bread and voices that speak in familiar tones. Gilgamesh pauses before the gate, the way a person pauses before entering a home after a long journey. He touches the bricks with his fingertips. The bricks are solid. They do not argue with him. They do not ask him what he found. They simply stand, patient, holding their shape. He steps through the gate. The streets are narrower than the open plain. The smells are richer. Smoke from cooking fires, warm grain, damp clay, the faint sweetness of dates. A child runs past carrying a small bowl, careful not to spill. An older man sits on a low stool, mending a strap, his hands steady with years of practice. A woman pours water into a jar, and the sound, glug, glug, feels strangely comforting, like a lullaby you forgot you knew. Uruk is alive in ordinary ways, and the ordinary ways are what heal. Gilgamesh walks slowly through the city, not as a conqueror demanding attention, but as a man who has been taught by distance. He notices things he once overlooked. The way the evening light rests on a wall. The way a dog curls in a patch of warmth. The way a reed mat is hung to air out, swaying slightly like a slow breath. If you have ever returned home after stress, after a hard week, a hard season, and suddenly noticed how gentle your own room can be, you understand this feeling. The world becomes softer not because it changed, but because you changed your way of seeing. He reaches the river. The water moves the same way it always has, carrying reflections of sky and brick. Boats drift by slowly. Someone calls out a greeting, not too loud. The river does not celebrate him. It simply continues. And in that continuation, he finds peace. He remembers the sea now, the endless breathing of waves. He remembers Siduri's garden and the taste of sweet and salt together. He remembers Utnapishtim's calm eyes and the quiet lesson of bread growing stale. He remembers the snake, the ripple, and the sudden understanding that the world's gifts cannot be clenched into permanence. And yet he does not feel empty, because he has brought back something subtler than a plant. He has brought back perspective. He has brought back the ability to let time pass without treating it as an enemy. This is the kind of treasure that does not shine, but it warms. As night deepens, Gilgamesh climbs the wall of Uruk again, the same wall we visited earlier. The steps are familiar. The city below is dimmer now, lamps blinking like small stars. The river is a dark ribbon. The sky is wide. He walks the wall not to boast, but to breathe. Each brick under his feet is a day built by someone. Each section of wall is a year held together by community. He realizes that the wall will not last forever, but it will last long enough to shelter many lives. And that is the only kind of forever humans ever really hold. Long enough to matter. If you are listening tonight and your mind worries about the future, about aging, about changes you cannot control, let this thought come to you gently. Long enough to matter is a beautiful goal. You don't have to live forever to live meaningfully. You don't have to solve everything tonight to rest well. From the wall, Gilgamesh looks down into courtyards. He sees people gathered around simple meals. He sees a mother patting a child's back until breathing slows. He sees an old couple sitting side by side without speaking, their silence comfortable like a shared blanket. He sees a young scribe, still awake, leaning over a clay tablet with a lamp beside him. Tap, pause, tap. And here, in this ordinary scene, the epic becomes small and human again. The story is not about slaying monsters or crossing impossible waters. It is about what a person learns when loss makes him look more closely at life. Gilgamesh descends from the wall and walks toward the tablet house. It is late, but the door is not fully shut. A teacher is still inside, older now, sitting in the dim light, as if keeping the room safe for anyone who needs it. A few tablets rest on a shelf, drying slowly. The smell of wet clay is faint, but calming. The teacher looks up as Gilgamesh enters, and he does not bow dramatically. He simply nods, the way one human nods to another. Gilgamesh sits down on the floor, unashamed. He watches a student, perhaps a late learner, perhaps an apprentice, smooth a fresh tablet, press wedges carefully, erase mistakes by wetting the clay, and begin again. There is a tenderness in that beginning again, because it means the story is never finished. While you are alive, you can always press a new line, you can always choose gentleness. Gilgamesh speaks quietly to the teacher, not in commands, but in questions. He asks about lists, about calendars, about the way scribes keep things in order. The teacher answers in a voice that stays low, explaining that order is not only a political tool, it is a comfort. When a city knows its festivals, its harvest times, its rules of trade, its measures and weights, people worry less. They sleep better. They trust the morning more. Gilgamesh listens. He thinks of the Tablet of Destinies, that mythic symbol of order. And he realizes that destiny is not only something held by gods in stories. In daily life, destiny is also shaped by small repeated actions, a fair measurement, an honest record, a kind word, a routine that keeps a household steady. He leaves the tablet house and returns to his own rooms. The palace is quiet. A servant has left a lamp burning softly. A bowl of water sits ready. Clean cloth is folded nearby. The room is prepared, like the shrine atop the ziggurat, hospitality offered to rest. Gilgamesh washes his hands slowly. The water cools his skin. He dries his fingers. He sits on the edge of his bed and lets his shoulders drop. Outside, Uruk settles deeper into night. The city's noise fades. The river continues its gentle sentence. A breeze moves across the rooftops. In this calm, Gilgamesh finally understands something the sea tried to teach him. Sleep is not defeat. Sleep is trust. To sleep is to say, the world can turn without my constant effort. To sleep is to return to the Abzu inside yourself, the deep, quiet place that holds you. If you like, take a slow breath now, as if you are practicing that trust. In and out. And as the epic softens into a bedtime scene, we can let one more gentle thought settle into you. The past did not survive because it was loud. It survived because it was carefully kept by scribes, by builders, by families who repeated small rituals of care. You are allowed to live that way too. Small care, small order, small kindness. Those are the bricks that hold a peaceful life. In the next part, we will widen our view once more, not to chase another quest, but to notice how cycles repeat. The rivers rise and fall, the moon's phases, the rebuilding of temples over old foundations. We will let those cycles become a soft reflection on your own life and on the gentle truth that nothing is wasted when it is held with love. Before sleep fully arrives, there is one more small movement in the story, as gentle as turning a page. Gilgamesh thinks of Enkidu not as a wound, but as a warmth. He remembers the sound of his friend's laughter and the way it once surprised him into being lighter. He remembers that friendship is its own kind of immortality, not the kind that keeps a body from ending, but the kind that keeps a spirit inside you, quietly shaping your choices. In the dim light, Gilgamesh reaches for a tablet. Fresh clay, smoothed like a calm pond. He does not carve a monument. He simply presses a few lines, simple and steady, as if sending a letter forward through time. A name, a thank you, a promise to build kindly. Tap, pause, tap. When he is done, he sets the tablet on a shelf where it can dry. Perhaps it will be stored, perhaps it will break. Perhaps only a fragment will remain one day, a few wedges that say nothing more than friend and remember. And even that would be enough, because the purpose of the mark is not fame. The purpose of the mark is tenderness. Now, if you are listening tonight with someone you miss, let this be your permission to remember them softly. You do not need to force the memory away, and you do not need to grip it so tightly that it hurts. Let it sit near you like moonlight, present, gentle, not demanding. And if sleep comes mid-thought, let it come. Nothing else is required tonight. Tonight, we slow down even further until the story feels less like a road and more like a quiet circle. Because when you look closely at ancient Mesopotamia, you begin to notice something soothing. So much of it was built on repetition, not repetition as boredom, but repetition as comfort. The same rivers rising and falling, the same moon renewing itself, the same hymns returning in the temple courtyard, the same hands pressing wedges into clay, one after another, until meaning takes shape. If your mind has been running ahead of you all day, this is a good place to stop, in and out. Imagine the Euphrates at dawn. The water is not perfectly still, it never is, but it moves with a calm confidence, as if it has known this path for a very long time. It slides around reeds. It catches the light in thin silver lines. It carries bits of floating leaves. It does not hurry, and yet it arrives. On the banks, the city begins to wake. A woman steps into the courtyard and pours water into a bowl. A man lifts a jar onto his shoulder. Children blink in the morning air, their hair still wild from sleep. Somewhere, a baker lights the fire, and the first smell of warm grain rises into the coolness like a gentle promise. And as the day unfolds, you can feel how the old world balanced its urgency with ritual. Work was necessary, yes. Canals had to be maintained, fields had to be planted, but there were also pauses built into life, like soft pillows. Festivals marked seasons, offerings marked gratitude, stories marked identity. The calendar itself, tied to the moon, reminded people that beginning again was not only allowed, but natural. Tonight, let that be a comfort to you. Beginning again is natural. If today felt messy, you can begin again tomorrow. If this year felt heavy, you can begin again in the next season. If your heart has been tired for a long time, you can begin again in small ways, one gentle breath at a time. In and out. Now let us return briefly to Eridu, that place of watery beginnings. Archaeologists speak of layers there, temple built upon temple, again and again, over generations. Imagine what that means in human terms. A child grows up and becomes an adult, and the temple is still there. The child's child grows up, and the temple has been repaired, rebuilt, renewed. Brick placed over old brick, not to erase the past, but to honor it. It is like making your bed each day on the same frame. The sheets change, the seasons change, but the act of smoothing the fabric becomes a ritual of care. And care, repeated, becomes a kind of healing. If you are in your 30s, 40s, 50s or beyond, you may know the quiet truth that youth rarely teaches. Life is made of layers. We build ourselves the way Eridu built its temple. We add experience, we add scars, we add gratitude, we add a little more patience if we are lucky, and sometimes we rebuild the same part of ourselves again and again, simply because that is what it means to keep living. There is no shame in rebuilding. The ancient people did it lovingly. They understood that continuity matters more than perfection. Now imagine an evening festival in a Mesopotamian city. The sun has sunk low, the heat loosens, people gather near the temple courtyard, lamps are lit, and their flames move softly in the breeze. A singer begins a hymn, not with dramatic force, but with a steady tone that encourages the listeners to breathe more slowly. The words are old. Many have heard them since childhood, and that is exactly why they are calming. Familiar words are like familiar blankets. A child dozes against a parent's side, An older woman closes her eyes as if listening with her whole body. A man who worked all day feels his shoulders drop without realizing it. The hymn is not asking them to solve anything, it is simply giving them a rhythm. In your modern life, perhaps you have your own hymn. It might be a quiet playlist, a cup of tea, a shower late at night, a few pages of a book, a familiar voice telling a story that does not demand urgency. If you do, honor it. That is your temple layer. Now in the tablet house, students practice the same signs again and again. It is not glamorous, but the repetition turns into skill. The skill turns into service. The service turns into a city that can trust its own records. This is the gentle miracle of routine. It makes life feel safer. And when the city feels safer, the nervous system rests. Tonight, as you listen, you are practicing your own quiet routine. You are training your mind to slow. You are giving yourself the same gift those ancient scribes gave their communities. Steadiness. Here, no one rests alone. Now let us look up again at the moon. The moon in Mesopotamia was more than beauty. It was time made visible. A thin crescent meant a new beginning. A full moon meant fullness, a moment of completion. A waning moon meant release. The ancient calendar moved with this cycle, and because of that, release was built into time itself. You did not need to force yourself to keep producing endlessly. The sky reminded you there is a time to grow and a time to let go. If you are the kind of person who carries responsibility, work deadlines, family needs, the pressure to be strong, let that reminder land softly tonight. There is a time to let go. And now, for a moment, imagine the slow turning of the sky across long centuries. Imagine a grand, almost imperceptible shift, like the world itself adjusting in sleep. You do not need to name it, you do not need the numbers, you only need the feeling. Time is wide and you are held inside it. Your worries are real, but they are not the whole universe. Sometimes this is what brings peace, not the solving of problems, but the widening of the frame. Now return to something small, a lamp on a table, a piece of bread, a bowl of water, a tablet drying on a shelf, a hand that chooses care instead of haste. Because ancient life was always both, vast sky and small lamp. And your life is both too. You have big questions and small comforts. You have long-term fears and tiny rituals that keep you steady. You have grief that opens deep spaces, and you have laughter that fills them, even if only for a moment. Tonight, we honor the small comforts because they are the bridges back to peace. If tonight's story is reminding you of a beautiful memory, you can share it below when you feel ready. Or you can simply keep it inside you, like a pebble warmed by the sun. Now imagine a modern museum again, but this time we notice something different. We notice that the tablets do not only preserve kings and gods, they preserve ordinary humans, a receipt for barley, a letter to a brother, a list of workers for a canal project, a child's practice tablet. These are the fingerprints of daily life, held quietly in clay. And when you realize that, the past becomes less like a distant legend and more like a neighbor. You begin to feel a gentle kinship with people who lived under the same moon, who watched the same kind of dawn light spread across water, who felt tired after work, who wanted safety for their families, who leaned into familiar rituals when the world felt uncertain. This is the softest discovery of history. The ancient world is not only strange, it is familiar. And that familiarity can be healing because it tells you that your feelings are not an anomaly. Humans have always carried anxiety. Humans have always sought peace. Humans have always needed stories at night. Now let us bring this cycle inward. Think of your own day as a small moon cycle. There is a beginning, a middle, a peak of activity, and then a letting go. Evening is the waning. Night is the dark moon, the place where nothing has to be produced, where you can return to the Abzu inside yourself. If you have been hard on yourself for needing rest, let that hardness soften tonight. The ancient world did not survive by refusing sleep. It survived by respecting cycles. Rest is part of the design, in and out. And now we offer a gentle reflection, the kind that does not wake you up but settles you deeper. Maybe the greatest human skill is not conquest. Maybe it is preservation. Preserving bread for winter, preserving knowledge in clay, preserving kindness in a tired day, preserving a little light even when the night is long. In Mesopotamia, that little light could be a lamp in a courtyard. In your life, it might be a quiet voice in your headphones telling you that you are safe enough to rest. If this story brought you calm, leave a gentle comment for yourself, only if you want to, something small, a single word like breathe or soft or home. And if you don't comment, that is perfectly fine. Your presence is already part of this quiet corner of the night. In the next part, we will begin to close the circle. We will return once more to the clay tablet, our first image, and we will let it become a final lantern. We will not end with a loud conclusion. We will end with a soft truth that the past will still be there when you wake, and you do not need to carry it all tonight. For now, let your body sink. Let tomorrow wait quietly outside the door for now. Let your breath become slower. Let the river inside you flow without effort. And let the moon of this night carry you gently toward sleep. We return to where we began, not by walking backward, but by letting the story fold in on itself like a blanket being smoothed at the end of the night. Imagine, once more, the small tablet of clay. It rests behind glass in a museum room that is dim and calm. The lights are gentle, designed not to glare. The air is cool. The floor absorbs footsteps. Even the signs on the walls speak softly, as if they know this is a place where minds come to slow down. The tablet is not large. It does not try to impress you with size. It does not need to. Its power is quieter than that. Across its surface, the wedge marks lie in orderly lines, tiny, angled impressions pressed by a hand that lived under a sky you can still see tonight. Those marks might be a hymn, a list, a letter, a fragment of myth, or simply the record of something ordinary. Barley measured, oil distributed, a name written so it would not be forgotten. If you stand close enough, you might notice something else, something that never makes it into textbooks. The clay keeps a memory of touch. Not only the stylus marks, but the softened edges where a thumb smoothed a corner, a faint curve where a palm steadied the tablet while it was still damp. A small imperfection where a grain of sand refused to move. These are quiet fingerprints of real life, proof that history was made by bodies, not by abstractions. And this is the gentle miracle. A body like yours once sat down after a long day, breathed and pressed these marks with patience. Maybe there was a canal to repair that morning. Maybe there were goats to count. Maybe there was a child to soothe. Maybe there was worry in the household about rain, about sickness, about the next season. And still the scribe took a moment to make order, to place language into clay as if placing a candle into a lantern. If you have ever sat down late at night after everyone else is asleep and tried to make your life feel a little more manageable, writing a list, folding laundry, setting out tomorrow's clothes, then you understand the feeling beneath the tablet. It is the feeling of care. Now let the museum scene soften into something even quieter. Picture the building after closing time, the doors locked, the last visitor gone, the lights lowered, a guard's footsteps far away, slow and routine. In this hush, the tablet remains exactly where it is, untouched, unbothered by the modern world outside, traffic, headlines, glowing screens. It simply rests, holding its small message, waiting without impatience. And maybe that is why it feels so calming to think about, because it does not demand anything from you. It doesn't need you to scroll. It doesn't need you to decide. It doesn't need you to prove anything. It just exists, steady, like a stone at the bottom of a river. The ancient world did not only leave behind monuments, it left behind messages, small, patient messages made for a future that could not be imagined. If you have ever written a note to yourself on paper, on a phone, on the corner of a receipt, then you already understand the feeling. This matters enough to remember. Now, let the image soften. You are not standing in the museum anymore. You are in your own room, listening in the dark. And yet, the museum still exists in the mind, like a quiet hallway you can return to whenever you need perspective, in and out. Let your breath be slow enough that your shoulders feel it. Tonight, we traveled through a chain of care. A scribe pressed wedges into clay and let the sun dry them. A library gathered thousands of tablets and kept them in rooms that smelled of dust and oil lamps. Time collapsed walls, scattered fragments, covered everything in earth. Then, centuries later, someone brushed the earth away without rushing. Someone labeled, sorted, cradled the pieces in drawers. Someone studied the signs by lamplight, patient as rain. And now you listen. That is a return so gentle it barely makes a sound. And it carries a quiet lesson. Meaning can survive without shouting. Sometimes the things that endure are the things that were handled with tenderness. If your life has felt loud lately, too many notifications, too many demands, too many voices, let this be a simple reminder from the clay. The most important truths do not need to be screamed to be real. They can be pressed softly. They can be kept quietly. They can wait. Now, as we settle into the last few moments of our story, let us gather the images we've carried tonight like a handful of warm stones, the marshlands of Eridu where reeds moved and water-fed beginnings, the Abzu imagined as deep fresh water under the city, calm and unhurried, the tablet house where students practiced one sign at a time until the hand learned steadiness, the ziggurat with a room prepared, bed, table, linens, hospitality offered to the unseen, the night sky steady as a quiet clock, turning in its own slow breath, the wall of Uruk built of bricks that held a community long enough to matter, the sea breathing in waves, teaching the heart to soften its grip, the museum drawers filled with fragments that still speak, and finally, the simple act that ties them all together, a hand choosing care. If you let these images drift through you now, you may notice something subtle. Your body knows how to rest when it feels safe. Safety is not always silence. Sometimes safety is a familiar rhythm, a steady voice, a slow description, a story that does not demand you solve anything. Tonight, you have been practicing that rhythm, and maybe you can carry one small piece of it into tomorrow, not as a task, but as a kindness. When your day begins to speed up, remember the scribe's pace. One mark, then a pause. When your mind wants to race ahead, remember the river. It arrives without hurrying. When you feel the urge to grip your worries, remember the sea. It holds everything by letting it move. And when you feel alone, remember the library. Thousands of human lives pressed into clay, all whispering the same quiet truth. You are not the first to feel this. You will not be the last. And you can rest. Now I want to offer one last question, soft, optional, meant only to rest beside you. Have you ever noticed that the past can feel like a friend when it is approached gently? Not a judge, not a debate, just a companion that says, I was here too, I felt this too, and I found small ways to endure. If that idea comforts you, let it settle like warm tea. If it does not, let it pass like a cloud. Either way, there is no pressure here. Here, no one rests alone. Every story from the past is a soft lantern in the dark, gently lighting our way tonight. Now let us do what the ancient scribes did when a tablet was complete. They set it down, they let it dry, they stopped pressing, they allowed the work to become still. You can do the same with your thoughts. If a thought arrives about tomorrow, about a conversation, about something unfinished, set it down gently beside the story. You do not need to carry it into sleep. It can wait like clay waiting for morning light. In and out, again, in and out. Let the exhale be a little longer. Let the muscles around your eyes loosen. Let your tongue rest quietly in your mouth. Let your hands become heavier, as if they are sinking into warm sand. Now imagine, just for a moment, that you are the scribe, not for the purpose of work, but for the purpose of tenderness. You hold a small tablet of soft clay. You press one simple line into it. I am here. Then another line. I am safe. Then, if you like, one more. I can rest. The clay accepts the marks without argument. And when you are done, you smooth your palm over the surface, not erasing the words, but sealing them into calm. You set the tablet aside. You step away. You let the night do what night is meant to do. Somewhere outside your room, the world continues. Cars, streetlights, distant voices, weather moving across a city. But none of that needs you right now. The world can turn while you rest, the same way it turned while the tablet slept under earth. Tomorrow will arrive on its own. The sky will keep its quiet schedule. Water will keep its gentle movement. And the past will still be there, patient and unchanged when you wake. And as you settle now, notice the small, present sounds around you, the soft hum of a fan, the faint, distant traffic, the quiet creak of a building cooling. Let those sounds become your modern river, your modern reeds, your modern night watch on the ziggurat terrace. Your bed is the prepared room. Your blanket is the folded linen. Your breath is the steady lamp. You don't have to travel any farther than this moment. If your mind reaches for one last worry, imagine placing it into a museum drawer lined with soft cloth and closing it gently. It will be safe there until morning. Let your eyelids grow heavier. Let the story fade like moonlight on clay. Let sleep arrive like water, patient, inevitable, kind and softly, safely, right now. If you'd like a small, gentle way to close this night with community, you can leave a soft comment, just a word, about what image felt most calming: the river, the clay tablet, the moon, the sea, the quiet library. And if you want more peaceful nighttime journeys, you can subscribe to Ancient Sleep Story, so this quiet corner is always here when you need it. Now there is nothing else to do. No answers to find. No conclusions to prove. Only rest. In and out. Sleep softly. The ancient world will wait for you.